That down, guys. Let's move on to this, shall we? You know, I thought this would be fun to do because we are now in 2025. And there was a real turning point in the history as we look back on all the major road posts in the development and the ongoing legacy of comic book movies. 2019 was a major one because that was Avengers Endgame. The second highest grossing film in history, the highest grossing comic book film of all time, and the crescendo, the climax, if you will, of the first three phases of the MCU, all 20 plus films built up to that one thing, massive event. And since then, the perception has been that, man, comic book movies have just not been the same. And it's been a kind of a different era, both from DC and Marvel and some others that have been kind of disappointing. So I thought it would be interesting just for a couple of minutes here to take a look at what we think are the worst, because we all know there's been a bunch of bad ones, but also to remind us that there's been some really good stuff. What have been the 5 best comic book movies we've had in this new era, 2020-25, this post-endgame comic book world. So I'm going to get things started here. I'll do my 5 worst. Then I'm going to ask you guys for your 5 worst, and I'll do my 5 best. We'll go 5. So let's start off with the 5 worst. I first want to start with giving an honorable mention. It did not make my list, but it deserves to be mentioned in this worst list. And that is New Mutants. New Mutants gets an honorary mention here. Now, look, one of the things that I will always be very, very grateful to New Mutants for. This was one of the most interesting moments of my film loving journey. It was the pandemic. All theaters everywhere had shut down. I hadn't stepped foot in a movie theater in 6 months, which is the longest stretch in my life. But Nevada opened their movie theaters. And one night, me and my buddy, Soul Video, Jonathan Green, we jumped in a car, drove 4 hours to Las Vegas to go see New Mutants because the theater was open, finished the movie, got back in the car, drove 4 hours back. It was one of the most interesting experiences I've ever had as a film fan. Doesn't make my top 5 worst, but New Mutants does get an honorable mention. All right, here we go. My number 5 worst film of the last 5 years from 2020-25 sucks because I love this franchise. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Oh, to quote Chris Carr, woof.
Rude.
And my level of disappointment can't accurately be summed up because I so enjoy the franchise. I love Paul Rudd in this role. I love Michael Douglas in these movies. I mean, obviously we're going to have Kang, and the movie just sucked. So my number 5 worst film from 2020-25 is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. My number 4 worst film in this time period, Wonder Woman 1984, which again, really sucks because I love the first movie. I thought they did such a great job with the first film. Like, I just can't get over how much I liked it. And then we got into 84 and I'm like, what happened? What went wrong? So my number 4 worst film in this era is Wonder Woman 1984. My number 3 worst film of this era was neither a Marvel or a DC film.
I had to look this up because I completely forgot what it was.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I don't blame you. Was neither Marvel or DC, and it's got one of my favorite celebrities in it, Vin Diesel's Bloodshot. Oh my God. What were they thinking?
Is that Isaac Gonzalez?
Yeah, she was in it, and I love her. Lamore Morris was in it. I mean, it had a good cast. Guy Pearce was in it. And I didn't think the trailers were all that bad. It's based on a really interesting character. And man, that movie sucked. All right, so that's my number 3 worst film. My number 2 worst film of the 2020-25 era. I'm actually surprised it's not number 1. If you'd asked me 6 months ago, I would have swore this list would have been number 1. But it was Madam Web. It's one of those movies. You know how every time I watch Eternals or every time I watch Avengers Age of Ultron, I appreciate those movies more and more and more. When I try to rewatch any of Madam Web, I am more and more baffled about how this movie ever got made. It is one of the truly worst comic book films ever made in history, not just from 2020 to 2025. One of the worst comic book movies in history, so it gets my number 2. And I never would have believed that one could come out that would top it. But about a month or two ago, it happened. Kraven the Hunter. My worst film, comic book film of 2020-25. Again, I had such naive optimism about this movie. I really believed that this could be good. I never thought it was going to be awesome, but I really believed this could be a good movie. And boy, those hopes were dashed. Dashed, I say, against the stone of reality. So once again, honorable mention to New Mutants. My number 5 was Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Number 4, Wonder Woman 84. Number 3, Bloodshot. Number 2, Madam Web. And my worst comic book film of 2020 to 2025 is Kraven the Hunter. We want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, NordVPN. All right, let's be real. There's nothing worse than wanting to stream your favorite show or watch a live game only to find out it's blocked in your country. But guess what? With NordVPN, that is never a problem. With just one click, you can switch your virtual location and access content from anywhere in the world. I have loved using NordVPN. Whether I'm traveling and using public Wi-Fi or just shopping online, NordVPN keeps my personal info safe and private. By switching my location, I can even save money on flights, hotels, and subscriptions. It's like a cheat code for getting the best deals. NordVPN is the fastest VPN in the world, so there's no buffering when I'm streaming. Plus, their threat protection feature blocks malware, trackers, and phishing attempts, keeping my devices safe 24/7. And with just one account, I can protect up to 10 devices, so my whole setup is covered. So to get the best discount on your NordVPN plan, head to nordvpn.com/John Campea, and our link will even give you 4 extra months for free on the 2-year plan. Plus, there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Links in the description. Check it out now. Rob, let's go over to you. What would you say are the 5 worst comic book films in this era?
Well, they're not films, but I'll talk, I guess, honorable mentions for worst. The 2 things that disappointed me that was Moon Knight and Secret Invasion.
Oh, so you're going to include Disney Plus?
I wasn't going to include those, but I'm just saying because they're not movies, so I wouldn't. But
right.
Both of those were shattering disappointments for me because I was really looking forward to both, and I hated them both. Wonder Woman 84, probably at the bottom of that list. I really, again, what a fall from grace. I wanted to love that movie. I was so excited for it. The story that movie told was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it was just a wishing rock, and I hated it so much.
It was so gross too.
And what a waste of Pedro Pascal.
That man had no consent.
It's fine.
Yeah. Thor: Love and Thunder.
Woman. He's fine.
I hated Thor: Love and Thunder. I wanted so much out of it, and the movie was a total goof. It could have been awesome. It could have had meaning. I sat in the theater and I'm like, God, really? I really hated it. Morbius. Again, another movie I had such high hopes for.
Couldn't
Jared
believe
Leto.
it didn't make my list. I really thought it was going to make my list, and it didn't.
Morbius, just like, come on, man. I mean, the thing about these movies is they're competent in terms of how they're made. And then I'm going to go Kraven, number 2.
Yeah.
Number 2?
Number 2,
wow.
because, look, there was things in Kraven. I like Aaron Taylor Johnson.
So do I.
So he was more palatable to watch. Now, Madam Web, I'm not even going to, it's been beat up too much. But the number 1 movie that was Quantumania. I hated Quantumania.
You didn't even have Madam Web on your list.
I don't even have, you know what? It's too obvious. It's a punching bag. I mean, that's kind of the special kid we have to take care of and make sure they get the education they deserve. You know, we all have to, the whole community has to rally around Madam Web.
I'm not rallying around Madam Web.
Okay, don't.
No.
I understand. But Quantumania, again, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I loved it.
Quantumania.
I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe so much. And to watch, I mean, the same director made all 3.
It had a good director.
And I'm
look
sure
what happened.
Peyton Reed, you know, I'm sure he read that script. He was stuck in. It's like, how do you take a delightful franchise and take everything that made it delightful away and put it in this? The same was true of Love and Thunder, and all these movies. Verisimilitude is out the window. Everything the Marvel Universe did really, really well was same with Thor: Love and Thunder, and same with Wonder Woman. It's like you guys are now making why superhero movies were not popular in the 90s. Everything was like Shaquille O'Neal and Steel. It's like, give me a break. How can you do this to your characters? They piss me off. These movies all piss me off.
I'm still kind of shaken that Rob doesn't think Steel was great. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, Chris.
I'm telling Shaquille O'Neal what you said.
I was going to
I
say,
love Shaquille O'Neal.
the initial email, I did not see the dates on this, so I initially had Steel, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, The Spirit, those kinds of movies
yeah,
on
we're doing
there.
half
Oh, no.
decade.
2020, 2025.
I mean,
Well-
same hits, same absolute bangers. Wonder Woman 1984, Quantumania. I put Secret Invasion. I counted that one because that is, I try to constantly forget about its existence, and then once I'm reminded of it, I'm so mad and disappointed.
Yeah.
Morbius, and then Madam Web.
All right, so a lot of the same ones we have
Yeah.
on the list there. Now, okay, now we all know there have been a lot of disappointments in the post-endgame era. But I wanted to also look at what have been the best, because there have also been some really good things that have come out in the last 5 years. So here's my top 5 comic book films in the post-endgame era, 2020 to 2025. I'm going to start again with an honorable mention. I'm kind of shocked it didn't make my list, but as an honorable mention, I'm going to mention Guardians of the Galaxy 3. What a great ending to the franchise. What a great ending to the series. And forget as an ending to the series, what a great movie. This is a great movie. It made you feel, it made you think. It was, movies are experiential events, and this one took you through the gamut of it. It was thrilling, it was exciting, it was funny, it was sad. I mean, I love this movie. I've still never seen a movie that made Ray Aura more angry. For all the right reasons, made him angry than this. So my honorable mention is Guardians of the Galaxy. All right. My number 5 best movie in the post-Endgame era, Spider-Man No Way Home. I don't think it's the best of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. And I certainly think a lot of it had to do with gimmick, but it was still an amazingly fun movie. The action was wonderful. The whole Aunt May scene, moving. Listen, what John Watts did with those 3 movies is incredible. And kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy 3, the way he brought it to a close there was great. So I'm going to put Spider-Man No Way Home as my number 5 best. At number 4, the one everybody counted out, Matt Reeves is the Batman. Man, I love that film. Shaved about 20 minutes off of it, I probably would have had it even higher on my list. But what Matt Reeves has done with Batman has has captured the tone and the DNA of what has always made this character so great. And particularly in the last 20 or 30 years. And Robert Pattinson worked out great, as most of us knew he would. And it was just a dark, thrilling, true kind of like Seven version of a comic book movie in many ways. And with a startling opening, like that opening with Riddler and everything. And God, that just shook you. So I've got The Batman as my number 4. In my number 3 spot for the best comic book films of 2020 to 2025. I love this movie. I loved it so much. I was shaking when I came out of it. Shang-Chi. This, from great heroes, great villains, snappy dialogue. It kind of represented the best of the MCU to me in many ways. Not that it was the best of the MCU movies, but it represented the best characteristics of MCU movies. Terrific post-credit scenes, like the whole bit, the best hand-to-hand fighting in any Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. I still once in a while will just sit down. I got a Sonos sound system. I'll sit down, put on the bus fight with DJ Snake's Run It playing in the background. Don, 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 as the fight starts and all that kind of stuff. I could watch that all the time. Shang-Chi, number 3. At number 2, I had thought Shang-Chi was the best Marvel film since Endgame until number 2 came out, Deadpool and Wolverine. The first time I watched it, my stomach hurt. I was laughing. I laughed so hard. My stomach hurt. I was agog and aghast at the level of violence that they put into it. Everybody was worried about the Disneyfication of it, but that clearly never happened. And it was just also great, just the nostalgia of it, and what a credit run with the big love letter to the Fox universe at the end, which I thought I got emotional actually watching that. Sung to the tune of I hope you had the time of your life, as they're playing all that, and I got emotional because I grew up with these. I watched all these. And so anyway, Deadpool and Wolverine, my number 2. My number 1. I think the best comic book movie in the 2020-2025 Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. These Spider-Verse movies have just, if the third one is on par, it will be in the conversation, not just of the greatest comic book trilogy, it'll be in the conversation of one of the greatest trilogies of all time. I cannot believe the level of excellence this film had. I couldn't believe, like, I thought for sure coming out of Into the Spider-Verse, I just wanted it to be good. Like, it's not going to be as good as the first one. I just want it to be good. It's amazing. And so I loved it. So once again, reminding us all that there's been some great stuff in the last couple of years. My honorable mention is Guardians of the Galaxy 3. My number 5 is Spider-Man No Way Home. My number 4 is The Batman. My number 3 is Shang-Chi. My number 2 is Deadpool and Wolverine. And my number 1 is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Chris, let's go over to you on this. What has been your best of the best for the last 5 years?
Again, I'm doing a lot of TV on mine. And if we could have inched in with 2018, I would have put down PlayStation Spider-Man game. I think that is one of the best adaptations of Spider-Man that's ever been done. For me, season 1 of Invincible. That is an incredible adaptation of those comics. That is so well done. That is so beautifully executed. The Miss Marvel series is so good. And
It's one of the
people
best
still
things
slept on
Marvel's ever done.
So wonderful. Guardians 3 is beautiful. I love that movie so much. It's probably my favorite Marvel movie. I love all of these guys. Damn you, James Gunn, for making me care that much about a trash panda. I love that little guy. Spider-Verse is so freaking phenomenal and beautiful and just everything that you want in a Spider-Man product. And then I think the best thing that's been adapted, because it just took the source material and really ran with it and made it so much more than it originally was. The Boys. I think The Boys is one of the best adapted things out there. Honorable mention to Preacher as well. That's a real fun one. Seth Rogen knows what he's doing.
Just side note, in case you're joining us late, that Chris had already mentioned that she misread the thing. We weren't going to include television, but she did. And I'm actually glad you got those projects mentioned.
Yeah.
Rob,
That
what
way we're
about
not
you?
echo chamber.
Now, I'm going with my favorites. Maybe
That's
not
how
the
this
best.
works.
That's how this works.
Okay,
Yeah.
my favorites.
To you, they are the best.
Okay, here's what I
Around.
want. This is gonna be very controversial. Number 5, The Flash. Come at me, bro.
I really like The Flash. Doesn't make my list, but
I
I
like
really
The
like
Flash.
that movie.
And you are
Like-
very welcome to liking the Flash.
I like The Flash.
Good for you.
Number 4, The Suicide Squad.
James Gunn's. It was great.
Yeah, that's
never
a good
thought-
call. Yeah.
The Suicide Squad. I never thought I'd see Starro. Come on, man.
Who would have ever believed we'd
As
see
an old
Starro?
listen, I grew up as a DC fanboy. You know, the Justice League was my jam. Number 3, Across the Spider-Verse. Number 2, The Batman.
Hell
So
yeah.
good.
And number 1,
I know.
Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Really?
Yes.
The
The
three-part, whatever many parts
look,
it is.
man, the Justice League was the worst thing I ever saw in my
Yeah.
life. I love the Justice League. I collected. It was the only comic I collected when I was a kid. I love the Justice League so much, and when I saw that movie, I wanted to punch myself. I mean, but when I watched the epic, look, you know what? Here's the thing. Zack Snyder's Justice League was the way that I thought of the Justice League when I was
I
a
really
kid.
enjoyed it myself too.
You know, and I found myself going and revisiting that movie more than any other superhero movie of the last 4 years. I love it. I love my physical media of it. I love turning it up loud. Sometimes I watch it without even the sound on. I'll put on music and it's
Rob.
just playing.
How could you?
Because, you know, so all you people that think I
That's
hate
interesting.
Zack Snyder.
I thought it was better than the theatrical version. I didn't think it was that much
I think
better
it's
than the
much better
theatrical
than
version.
theatrical.
I love it.
Oh,
Love
well,
it.
That's why these lists happen. That's why these lists exist.
You know, it's really cool. You put EDM music, techno music, or a good DJ, a little chill out music like Tiesto, and just put it on
Never
the screen.
chilled out to Tiesto, but all
I used
right.
to do that a lot with Barbarella when I was married. We'd put Barbarella on the screen and play
I
techno
love
music.
Barbarella so much.
Oh, I know. One of the great comic book adaptations ever.
So great.
Anyway, guys, what about you? I mean, yeah, listen, things haven't been the same since Endgame, but there has still been a lot of really good stuff and some really terrible stuff. What to you would be the 5 worst and the 5 best comic book movies that we've had in this era of 2020 to 2025? Whatever you guys think, jump down in the comments below and leave your thoughts there. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.